Madam President, thank you so much for your time. It's a big pleasure for us.
Thank you so much for coming and welcome to the Republic of Kosovo.
Kosovo celebrated 15 years of the declaration of the independence, and next week it will be the 16th anniversary. How do you view Kosovo's progress as an independent nation over the past 15 years, and what are the biggest progress and challenges throughout these years?
Kosovo has made enormous progress in the past 15 and a half, almost 16 years now, in so many areas, from the state building process to the democracy development process to the economic growth process. So in all of the aspects, Kosovo has made significant strides and now outshines even other countries in the region and beyond, if I might say, in so many of these areas. Even international reports that are published from time to time show that Kosovo is a champion in the area of democracy and human rights and fighting crime and corruption, so generally on rule of law. But what is the most important thing is that Kosovo is a joint success story of the people of Kosovo, of the institutions of Kosovo, and the international community, democracies around the world. It's a testament to what countries that really stand for values can achieve when they work together, when they stand together in the face of hegemonic regimes and genocidal regimes and actually fight for freedom, for independence and democracy, as we all did in Kosovo. Since 2008, when we declared independence, we practically had to build so much of what we have today from scratch, build institutions that we never had before, make sure that these institutions have some of the most democratic and administratively efficient processes. And of course, throughout that way, we had a lot of challenges, and challenges remain. But we are not seeing failure as an option. Quite the opposite. Our patience will not go grim in dealing with many of these challenges. And I would say the enthusiasm in dealing with them is only growing. And I'm quite confident that we will be successful until we get our deserved place among the community of free nations.
There's, as you said, like these challenges. One of these challenges are that Kosovo is still not a full member of the UN and lack membership in many international bodies like UNESCO, Interpol, and the 5 EU countries. So my question here, how much this continued lack of universal recognition hamper maybe Kosovo's progress and the integration into the world community?
Of course it does, and it is unfortunate because it is our people that feel the detriment of this inaction by many countries around the world. So we are calling on countries, big or small, no matter how far they are geographically from Kosovo, to join the rest of the world who have taken the courageous but righteous decision to recognize the Republic of Kosovo, since also the International Court of Justice has decided back in 2010 that Kosovo's independence is in full line with international law, and there's neither a general principle of international law nor a resolution of the UN that has been violated by Kosovo's declaration of independence. Now, with this confirmation in mind, and with the fact that the countries that have recognized Kosovo never lost anything. Quite the opposite. They've gained a friend, they've gained a partner, and an ally with which they can work together on challenges and on common values. So for that reason, we are working very closely with those countries that have not taken this decision yet to convince them to make this step, because it will benefit long-term peace and stability in the Western Balkans, and it will make it much easier for us to move towards Euro-Atlantic integration.
One of the good collaborations recently with the UAE. So you met His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, and after this meeting there was a good news regarding the visa. The UAE abolished all the visa requirements for Kosovo citizens. What more can you tell us about this, and what relations does Kosovo hope to build with the UAE, both economically and politically, maybe to strengthen the ties between the two countries?
I would say that the fundament of the relations between Kosovo and the UAE started during our most difficult times, during the war, when the people of Kosovo were under a risk of being exterminated. We were being attacked indiscriminately at that time by the Milosevic regime, and the UAE was one of the countries that came to help us out. After the war, when we rebuilt the country, when we had nothing, practically everything was burned down to ashes. We had to build everything from scratch, from zero. We had no houses, no hospitals. The very first hospital that was built was the Sheikh Zayed Hospital in the city of Vushtrī. And even today, if you speak to the citizens who live there, they will tell you about how much it has changed their lives to have a hospital that offered them the services that they needed. This legacy that was built about 25 years ago is continuing. About a year ago, we also inaugurated the first children's hospital, the Sheikha Fatma Hospital, that was also funded by the UAE. And I visited the hospital recently again, and to see the level of services that are offered there for the little kids who need medical treatment, you can see the enormous effect that the support from the UAE has had. Now, during my meeting with His Highness in the UAE during COP28, we had an excellent conversation on how to take this relationship between two countries to new heights, to build on this amazing legacy of his parents and make sure that this bond is stronger and make sure that there are enormous opportunities for the people of our two countries to develop when it comes to economy, when it comes to culture, and so many other areas. So yes, the very first step on which we agreed was to abolish the visa requirements, because this was hampering communication, and I am so grateful that immediately 2 hours after we met, they sent the draft of the agreement, and then after the necessary procedures, now the agreement is in place. And just yesterday we were informed of a new positive development in our relationship, but at this point, until some procedures are finished when it comes to this aspect, I cannot make it public, but I have to say more good news are coming.
Just give us maybe something.
Well, it's in the area of economic development, if I might say that. So it's communication. So it's very important that we were moving on with so much of what we agreed during that meeting. And I'm hoping to visit UAE again, but we're expecting His Highness to visit Kosovo. He's been to Kosovo before. Many times, but this will be an official visit, a state visit, where hopefully we will be able to conclude a number of agreements at the benefit of both of our countries and both of our people. And as I said, to make sure that this relationship between our two countries is taken to new heights. What I can say is that the people of Kosovo are very grateful for all of the support, and we're absolutely ready to make sure that we open new chapters of cooperation.
Talking about the visas, also on January, there's the new visa travel also to Europe, some countries in Europe. So now there's these decisions. Here I want to ask you, youth can now leave the country more easily with these requirements and these simple, if you want, procedures. Do you worry that this will accelerate maybe the brain drain and youth immigration from Kosovo?
There is some concern, but I would say probably not as big of a concern as it could have been, let's say, many, many years ago, because those who really wanted to go and work to countries like Germany or the rest of Europe, they already found ways to do that through the work or permit visas that were issued by the embassy here for many years. And the visa liberalization that just entered into force in January actually covers touristic visas for up to 3 months, not every kind of stay. For that reason, I think, in fact, it will allow people freedom of movement, which is a basic human right, but at the same time, so many of our youth and the rest of the country, of course, will have the opportunity to see these places, to see how developed they are, learn a lot from them, and bring back that experience home. So in the first 2 months or so of the entry into force of the visa liberalization system, we haven't seen an increase of the people who leave. And if we look at the models or the samples, if I may call it so, from other countries that benefited from visa liberalization in the past, if there's not an increase in the first 2 or 3 months, you don't need to worry about that. So the point is, yes, we're really giving a lot of attention to this issue, but I think the only way to actually stop this from happening, the brain drain, is to make sure that the youth of Kosovo have the opportunities that they deserve within the country. And I'm not talking about just getting a job, but getting a well-paying job based on their qualifications through a merit-based process. So we're working on that, but obviously not all of it can be changed overnight. We've inherited an extremely high unemployment among youth and women. This is changing to a large extent. But of course, not everything can happen overnight. So we're supporting a lot of the businesses and companies. We're working with the private sector to make sure that many of the loopholes that were in the system are filled in, so that we do not allow for people to leave because they don't feel like they can get prosperity here. But as I said, it remains one of the main challenges for the rest of the region, not just for Kosovo. But for Kosovo is particularly so because we have about 2/3 of our population that is under 35, about 53% are under 25. Youth is our most enormous potential, also when it comes to economic growth. So we need to make sure that it's best used for the benefit and the interest of the country.
To move from this topic, 2 days ago we saw all the news regarding the government decision. Your government imposed a ban on Serbia's currency and instructed its Serb minority to adopt the euro. What's your thought on this? And it might be any maybe message behind this?
There's no message directed to the Serbian community with this regulation, which in fact was not a government decision. It was a decision of the independent institution of the Central Bank Authority, which is entirely separate from the government. It's an authority formed by the Assembly of Kosovo, and it acts independently. But the point is, I think, the challenge was the communication, the way how it was communicated. Now, everything that we've achieved in this country, as I said at the beginning, was a result of cooperation with our international partners. And of course, whenever these decisions that are taken by our institutions are in place, there is a particular sensitivity as to how the minority communities are being affected. So now, the only thing that remains to be seen how to get out of this situation, which is unfortunate, is to make sure that there is a joint agreement with our friends and allies on building on an implementation plan, how to implement the regulation that was adopted by the Central Banking Authority. Of course, no one is asking us to repeal the Central Banking Authority decision. No one is asking us not to implement our constitution or to maintain the dinar. Quite the opposite, the regulation doesn't even mention the dinar. It's about stopping money laundering and determining what are the rules and criteria for cash flow and so on and so forth. But I think there is, of course, plenty of space to sit down and have a discussion between the government and our international allies so that this implementation plan is in place, and during the implementation period, transitional period of implementing it, we can make sure that all of our Serb citizens have the necessary information that they deserve to have. If they need to open new bank accounts, so that they can have enough time to open them for the transfer of their money to be made in euros into their bank accounts, and to make sure that the citizens are not affected negatively, because that's not the intention of anyone in the institutions of Kosovo. So all in all, I think it's a matter of communication, but I'm absolutely certain that it will be resolved, because there's no reason not to be resolved. It would be ridiculous not to be able to resolve something that is, I think, very simple and is just a matter of how a certain regulation that has the best of intentions is implemented in the best way possible and it serves in the best way possible all of the citizens of Kosovo, no matter their background. So I'm very much confident that it's an issue that will be resolved. As I said, when there's a will, there's always a way, and we'll find a way for this as well.
The dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia is stalled like now. Serbia clearly says it will not recognize Kosovo's independence. What are your red lines in terms of concessions of Kosovo that willing or not willing to make?
Well, Serbia is not only saying that they will not recognize Kosovo, they are also saying that they will not implement the agreements reached in Brussels. They've said that in interviews, in statements, and recently they've said that in writing in a letter that they've sent to all of the leaders of the European Union and to the member states of the EU. So I think they're showing that they're not for dialogue, and with the attack against Kosovo on the 24th of September, they've also shown that they've resorted to violence, which is unfortunate because the only way through which we can achieve long-lasting peace in our region and also make sure that all of the countries of the Western Balkans join the European Union is through a peaceful dialogue, to which Kosovo has been fully committed. The dialogue has never stalled because of us. I mean, the reason why there were challenges is because Serbia committed an act of aggression in September, so of course there was an ongoing investigation, the results of which all lead to the Serbian heads of institutions. Now, when it comes to the red lines, for Kosovo, they've always been the same since the dialogue started. So no discussion or negotiation on Kosovo's sovereignty, no discussion or negotiation on Kosovo's territorial integrity, its functionality as a country, and its constitution. So practically these four principles ensure us that even if we discuss how we can make sure that the rights of communities are further advanced, although even as we speak we have the most advanced constitution in Europe when it comes to the rights of minority communities. But we're ready to do more for our citizens that belong to minority communities, not for Serbia. They have never been interested for the Serb minority community here in Kosovo. They've been interested to grab Kosovo territory. So of course we're not going to allow that. We do believe that the Ohrid Agreement and the Brussels Agreement that were achieved last February and March, although not perfect, are a good basis that would lead in the near future to mutual recognition between Kosovo and Serbia, because among others this agreement provides for the mutual respect of territorial integrity of these two states, Kosovo and Serbia, mutual respect of sovereign equality of states, respect of the principle of equality of parties, and among others it also includes Article 4, which says Serbia shall not object to Kosovo's membership in any international organization. So I think this was a big achievement in this sense, although Kosovo had to make its own concessions too. But these are the kind of principles that lead us towards mutual recognition. Now, of course, Serbia today says we will never recognize Kosovo, but one day they will. Hopefully sooner rather than later, and hopefully also for their own benefit, because it's about time that this region moves forward instead of trying to get us back to the past and get us back to the 90s. And as I always say, Kosovo's independence, it's an irreversible reality. Kosovo is here to stay. We're not going anywhere as a sovereign country, as an independent country, but also a peace-loving country that wants to have excellent relations with all of its neighbors.
What is required of the Serbian government today in order to bring your points of view closer and enter into a serious dialogue to solve the problem between you and not to have any major problem, any attack maybe?
Well, they have to give up on the violence, and they have to give up on the Milosevic mentality, and they have to give up on the hegemonic views according to which all of their neighbors are temporary states which they should grab and take for themselves. This is the kind of logic that no one will tolerate, obviously, but it's unfortunate for all of us that they have been pushing forward a destabilizing agenda. So if Serbia truly wants to have good neighborly relations with all of us here in the region, and if they want to move towards European Union, they have to stop behaving violently, and they have to accept the reality, which is that Kosovo is independent and will remain so, Bosnia-Herzegovina is independent and will remain so. So is Montenegro, so is North Macedonia, and so are the other countries that stem from the violent breakup of former Yugoslavia. And the reason why that violent breakup happened is Serbia, is to be found there, because it was the Milosevic regime that caused 150,000 civilians that were killed in the wars of the Balkans, one of the worst genocides in the history of humankind. And for that reason, it is extremely important that they accept this reality and move on. Quite the opposite. So far, they have been trying to drag us all back to the 90s. But of course, we in Kosovo will reject that and will continue to work for a brighter future to make sure that our kids never have to go through what we had to go through.
Talking about this divergence in views between these two countries, in the light of this ongoing also conflict without any major changes, who is fueling this divergence in views between Serbia and Kosovo? Because as we know that all conflicts occur, maybe that there's countries behind this conflict. So can you explain to us more about the picture? Like, can we have a clearer picture of this? And what Arab youth today should know about the conflict between Serbia and Kosovo?
It is quite obvious that the one that is fueling the destabilization of our region is Russia. Russia has an interest to expand the conflict beyond Ukraine, and they are trying to do that in the Western Balkans, primarily in Kosovo as well as Bosnia-Herzegovina. But of course, they wouldn't be successful in this if they didn't have a proxy state, which is Serbia. So if Serbia would be rejecting this malign Russian influence, Russia would never be able to destabilize this region. The only reason why they might be successful in any of these efforts is because they are doing it through Serbia. So I can't say that it's Russia alone, it's definitely a Russia and Serbia partnership in all this.
In 2023, there have been provocative statements from some Serbian politicians alluding to potential military intervention in Kosovo. Also, at the same time, you and your government have made strong assertions that Kosovo faces threats over its territorial integrity. How realistic are these competing narratives of military confrontation between Serbia and Kosovo? Or are such claims of looming conflict are being somehow exaggerated or used for domestic political purposes for both Belgrade and Pristina? And in case if it's realistic, are you ready for any attack?
To be very frank, I don't see any domestic benefit in Kosovo from talking about threats. So I think it's a misjudgment to say that anyone in Kosovo, by talking about the threats that we face from Serbia, would be gaining any domestic political points, because we don't. That's simply not true. However, we have to be very honest with our people and our allies about what we're facing. And that is a clear threat, to some extent, for a hybrid attack from Serbia. Perhaps not a traditional military operation. However, just knowing what Serbia represents, we've learned that the hard way. And I'm talking about its leadership, obviously not about the people. It is very important that we're ready for any kind of scenario. So I don't think Serbia means well. And we certainly have information that they continuously train terrorist groups. They continuously arm them, and they continuously finance them for potential terrorist attacks and acts of aggression against Kosovo. One of those happened on the 24th of September, so no one can say that this is just mere propaganda any longer. It's something that has happened. Now, whether that will happen again, it will depend on a number of issues. First and foremost, we're working with our allies to fortify our border with Serbia to make sure that they are not allowed to bring in terrorists or weapons. Of course, we have quadrupled our presence around the border, and it will be increased as we speak. The second aspect is not just, and of course, we're also making sure that we are much stronger in terms of our defense capabilities. But defense, we're not talking about anything else. Now, the other aspect that goes beyond security and defense is very much political. If Serbia gets a strong message from allies and partners around the world that such an action from their side will not be tolerated, they might get the message. But if they don't get any clear message, they will be encouraged to attack again, because they will know they can get away with it, because they got away with it once, they got away with it twice and 3 times and 4 times. So what will they do? What does an aggressor do when they are continuously appeased? Obviously, they are encouraged to use more violence, not to become more cooperative. That's what history shows us. Appeasement of autocrats never leads to long-lasting peace. It emboldens them, it encourages them to attack more and to become more reckless. And that's exactly what Serbia has done in the past couple of years. So I think it's crucial that on one side we are absolutely ready to halt and thwart any attack by Serbia from a defense and security perspective. And I believe from all of the efforts that we're making together with our allies and partners that we are very much ready to thwart any such aggression from Serbia. But at the same time, it's very important that all political measures are undertaken, not just by the EU and the US, but all partners around the world who care about peace in this region, who have invested in peace in this region, to make sure that Vučić gets a strong message through which they can stop him from doing something stupid again. So in these two aspects, it's very important that we constantly work together with our partners and allies, and as president of this country, that's exactly what I do. But I want to reassure our citizens that they have no reason to panic about these potential attacks, because our security institutions, as well as the NATO presence, have everything under control and ready to thwart any aggression by Serbia.
Talking about the last attack in September, in your interview with CNN, you stated that you would publish proof that the Serbian president gave the order of groups of Serbs who attacked Banijska in September 2023. Do you stand by your assertion that you have evidence by the Serbian president, and what can you tell us more about this evidence today?
Absolutely not that I only stand by it, but this evidence has been confirmed by one of our most important allies, and this evidence has been shared with NATO member states. It leads directly to Vučić. So we're not talking about his loss of control over some gangs. We're talking about him organizing and ordering the attack through these gangs, and now he's trying to get away from responsibility by trying to blame others. So everyone knows, and I've had plenty of guests and leaders in my office who have confirmed this. And there are cases when they've told Vučić directly that they have plenty of evidence that it was him. Now, of course, this evidence that is confirmed by different allies and partners, it is within their discretion when it is the moment that they will publish it. We cannot interfere into that, because each and every country has its own way and its own procedures on how they carry out investigation, how they conclude an investigation, how they use the evidence from an investigation, and when they publish it. So this is under their discretion, it's not ours. But also our report, the report prepared by Kosovo security institutions, has shown direct and unequivocal links between Vučić and those who attacked, including those that relate to the financing of this group, evidence that relates to the training of this group in the Serb military bases, evidence that relates to the transfer of weapons from the military of Serbia to these terrorists, and finally the fact that Serbia under Vučić is giving political support to these terrorists who are still roaming free around Serbia is additional to everything else that I've mentioned. So the evidence is there for everyone who wants to see it. But of course, there are countries who want to use the evidence, and then there are others who unfortunately just want to ignore it, which gets me back to my previous point. Again, I think history has taught us enough lessons in the hard way that whenever these autocrats that used violence and caused conflicts were appeased, they were encouraged to do more of that, not less of that. So I do hope that all the countries that really want peace and stability in our region will make sure that once they see everything that we've sent to them in terms of evidence and everything that our partners have sent to them, will take a strong stance against all of these destabilizing actions of Serbia.
Is this report will be to the public later on, to be published to the public?
It will depend, I would say, on NATO nations, not on Kosovo. But what Kosovo has gathered, of course, some of it is in public, some of it will be published pretty soon. It will depend on our police, because as president I do not interfere in the work of law enforcement institutions who do independent work when it comes to collection of evidence.
You as a president of Kosovo and Ana Brnabić as the Prime Minister of Serbia. Some hoped this could provide a fresh opportunity for breaking the impasse in negotiations between your nations. So far, did you see any advantage of potential benefit arising from having women spearhead these sensitive talks over Kosovo's future relationship with Serbia?
As president of Kosovo, I don't directly lead the negotiations with Serbia. That's the only aspect of negotiations that is led by the Prime Minister from a foreign policy point of view, because in our constitution, the president is the head of foreign policy. But however, our constitutional court has determined that all aspects of negotiations with Serbia need to be consulted with the president. So I work together with the Prime Minister on the positions that we take, on ideas that we move on agreements that are reached. And so far, I strongly believe that the fact that this process has also included a woman leader has brought forward a perspective that is more prone to building long-term peace, long-term stability, and making sure that while we maintain those four principles that I laid out, which are the red lines: sovereignty, territorial integrity, functionality, and the Constitution of Kosovo, we are open and flexible to finding ways forward to resolve them through peaceful negotiations and through dialogue. And I think the presence of women in processes always contributes to that. I can't tell you what has been the role of Ana Brnabić in Serbia when it comes to negotiations with Kosovo. I haven't seen any, but perhaps that's better a question posed to them. We haven't really seen any difference between her positions and the position of Vučić, but I'm not aware of any involvement from her side when it comes to negotiations or the dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. Quite the opposite. In the latest EU Western Balkans summit, she tabled a letter on behalf of Serbia through which she said that they will not be implementing the latest Brussels agreement and the Ohrid Annex, which is unfortunate because that has been one of the biggest achievements of the process of the dialogue in the past 3 years, and it was tabled by her, although I assume requested by Vučić. So generally speaking, historically speaking, the women of Kosovo have played an enormously positive role during the peaceful resistance, during the armed resistance, during the negotiations for Kosovo's final status, later on the dialogue with Serbia when it started in 2011, up to date when I'm leading the country as president. So the role of women is indispensable. And in peace and security processes in general, whenever you have women involved, the results are always better.
Despite nearly 20 years since the Kosovo conflict ended, statistics in 2019 by OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, a report showed and stated that around 28,000 displaced people have returned to the country, with the rate of returns steadily decreasing over time. So this report has cited ongoing problems that make it difficult to many to return to their homes to Kosovo. As a president, what did you do during your presidency to improve the conditions and the return of all of these who are still displaced? And do you believe enough has been done by Kosovo authorities to fulfill the right and return to all these people to their country?
I absolutely believe on the full right of these people to return to their country. I also believe that all those who might have been involved in committing war crimes and crimes against humanity need to face justice, because the civilian victims of this country deserve justice, and we still have thousands that are in massive graves in Serbia that are missing from the war. We still have no justice for cases of rape against 20,000 women in Kosovo. We still have very deep wounds. But that doesn't stop me from saying that all citizens of Kosovo, no matter their nationality, need to feel safe to live in their homes. What we have been doing as Kosovo institutions is, first of all, make sure that we finance the rebuilding of houses, and we make sure that they have all of the financial assistance to stay. Secondly, our police has been fundamentally exercising its function of defending these communities in terms of safety and security. Thirdly, they have access to schools and jobs and so on and so forth. What I can't guarantee is that in terms of economic prosperity, that they will have something extra from the rest of communities. Unfortunately, each and every community that lives in Kosovo, be it Albanians or Serbs or Turkish or Bosniak or others, have the same economic problems. So they will complain about not having the best of jobs and wages and protection in the workplace. So these are common challenges, not that belong only to minority communities. There is a particular security problem in the north that is not caused by Kosovo institutions, but it's caused by Serbian gangs that also carried out the latest terrorist attack, who are intimidating local Serbs into all kinds of actions, who make sure that they use violence against local Serbs. We've had cases of murder against local Serb politicians. They force them to vote a certain way. They burn down their houses or their cars. So this kind of intimidation and violence has been caused by these gangs, which Kosovo institutions are now effectively countering. And of course, we will not stop in this direction, because there should be no compromise with criminals. And this is, I think, one of the best things that goes in the interest of the Serbian community who lives in Kosovo, because they should feel free to vote for whomever they want, to buy whichever apartment they want, and to make sure that they engage in all free activity that is allowed in our law and constitution. There's still a long way to go in terms of building trust and so on and so forth. But one thing that I can assure you is this: there's no Serb in Kosovo that is afraid of me. But there are plenty that are afraid of criminals that are Serb by nationality, and that have been pressuring them, intimidating them, harassing them, and using violence against them. So for that reason, we are making sure that our police offers safety and security and protection to all of the citizens, while at the same time recognizing that it's not the perfect situation. We can always become better, because democracy is never a finished project. And we strive to become better and to make sure that everyone that wants to contribute in this country feels equal, feels protected, and can use its full potential.
With this message, I want to thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for your time. Always happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.